Chumash and Rashi, we are in Parshas Netzavim Vayeilich, double portion, and we are in the fourth reading. Today we traverse from Parshas Netzavim to Parshas Vayeilich. The fourth reading, when you have a double portion, connects to two portions. All right, let's get right into it. Re'eh, see, or translate here as behold, right? I guess when you see, you behold, right? Nasati lefanecha. Oh, look what's going on over here. Chapter 30, verse 15. Behold, Nasati lefanecha, I've placed before you, hayoim, today, is hachayim, life, vesatoiv, and good, vesamavis, and death, vesara, vesara, and evil. Ooh, heavy duty. Okay. So Esachayim Vesatoiv. So in Rashi in 15, life and good. One is dependent on the other. If you will do good, you'll see that you have life. And if you will do evil, and you'll see death. Now the Torah continues in the verses and explains how so. Okay. 16. That which I am commanding you today, to love is Hashem Elokecha, to love Hashem your God, and to go in His path and His ways, and to guard, heed, to fulfill, observe His commandments, and His statutory laws, and mishpatav and ordinances. Ordinances are, like civil law, that, logical things. Hukav is things beyond law, beyond rationale. V'chayisa, and you will live as a result, right? V'ravisa, and you will increase. So v'rachecha, and you will be blessed. Hashem Elokecha will bless you. Ba'aretz, in the land asher ata b'Hashem l'rishta, the land that you're coming there to take possession of. Once again, God mentioning that He's the one who gave us the land, right? So in 16, Rashi, that which I'm commanding you today to love, here you have good, and upon it depends, that you will live and you will multiply. You have life as a result. Rashi just pointing out how the verse is continuing from the previous and giving us enumerating it. Yeah, reference to life. 16 or 17? We are now on 17. If, however, your heart will turn, deviate, you will not listen, and you will, I guess, go astray, and you will prostrate to other gods and serve them. This verse now is speaking about the evil. Okay. Why Rashi has to point that out, it seems like, pretty obvious, but 18. And you will say to yourselves, right? Hayom, today, that we will surely perish, and that we will not live long days on the land. That which you are crossing the Jordan, that you're coming there to take possession of. Again, referring to death. Is that you're not going to last on the land, right? If you're going to say that. So I am then bearing witness upon you as Hashemayim V'Zara, as heaven and earth. In other words, they're going to bear witness. There's Aretz. There's a Shem is Aretz. Hachayim v'amavis. In other words, they're going to bear witness that I have um, that I've given you I guess the choice, if you will, or warned you. The life and death, Nasati lefanecha, I have placed before you. Habrach v'haklala, the blessing and the curse. V'rachta, or becharta rather, or becharta b'chaim, and choose life. Laman tichya, in order that you should live. Ata b'zarecha, you and your offspring. All right, here's the choice. Rashi. Lengthy Rashi. 19. I've called upon heaven and earth today to bear witness against you. Shehem kayam leilam. Why them? Because they last forever, heaven and earth. Kasher tikra eschem hara, and when evil will befall upon you, yuedim, they will be witnesses. Shani hizreisi b'chem b'chol zois, that I have warned you about all of this. What that means, I don't understand. How are they going to bear witness? In what way are we going to notice that they're bearing witness? That they're not going to give rain in its time? That things will not grow? And is that what it means? I'm not certain. Davar acher, an alternative explanation to these words. That I've called to heaven and earth to bear witness against you. It implies, Hashem said to Israel, the Jewish people, take a look at heaven that I have created to serve you. Might they have deviated from their character? Shema loyallah. Is it possible that the sun will not ascend on the east? And will not give light to the entire world. As it says, that the sun rises, the sun sets. Right. Furthermore, take a look at earth that I've created to serve you. Is it possible that it deviated from its character? Is it possible that you have sown, you've seeded the earth and it did not produce plants? Or is it possible that you planted wheat and you yielded barley? And just as these have done what they're supposed to do, not for reward and not for any loss. That is, if they're worthy, they don't receive any reward. And if they sin, they don't receive any punishment. They didn't deviate from their character. You, that you're worthy of receiving reward for doing good. And on the other hand, if you sin, you will receive a punishment. All the more so you shouldn't deviate from the way you are meant to be. They don't deviate, I guess, because they got no choice, right? So I don't know, what that is exactly supposed to mean. Okay. We need the Rebbe's insight over here. You should choose life. I'm instructing you. I'm telling you. Choose in the portion of life. What other portion? Why would you choose death? Like a person says to his son, choose for yourself the best portion of my estate. And he's given the choicest portion of the estate. And he says to him, select this for yourself. Hashem and that Hashem is my allotted portion, the kaisi in my cup. and you guide my portion. Hinachta yadi, and laid my hand al ger latev upon the good portion. Laimar ezeh kach lecha. Take this for yourself. It's like God is putting like what God is doing. He's like the father tells his son, "Here, you put your hand on these possessions, on this." So he's guiding him very clearly on what he should take.
He's taking lead. He's showing you, leading you.
Yeah, he's leading us.
Yeah, but he's not giving you that choice.
Well,
Want to line up behind me or not? Your choice.
It's your choice, but he's saying he's encouraging you to choose life, right? He's not taking away your choice.
Giving you incentive.
He's giving you, incentive, encouragement, yeah.
So I don't know why someone wouldn't take his incentive.
Because I guess, the truth is, think about it for a moment. When you have a very enticing piece of food in front of you that's not healthy, right? You're enticed by it. It's death, right? White flour and sugar. It's death. But we take it. Why? Because in the moment we don't feel its pain of death. Right? We don't feel it.
It's the immediate gratification.
It's immediate, right? In the moment, we don't feel it. Afterwards, what do I eat that for? That's like, right? That's so. In other words, the choice is there. Yeah. So maybe with that we can understand God is saying choose life. Choose life because in the moment, when God is saying here that you're going to have long, you're going to have good, it's not immediate good that you're going to sense necessarily, right? That's actually trust and faith in God. I mean, think about it. When you have something that looks enticing in front of you, whether it's food or any other thing, it's enticing in front of you, to trust in God that no, this is just temporary and that there's something more valuable that doesn't, that my five senses are not experiencing now. That's life, but that's a choice and not so easy. And therefore God needs to be there for our encouragement. Okay, 20. Last pasuk in the parsha, and then we go over to Vayeilich. The Av is Hashem Alekecha, in order that you should love Hashem your God, Lishmai B'Kailai, and to listen in His voice, V'Ladavka B'Ay, and to cleave to Him, Ki Hu Chayecha, because He is your life, V'Eirich Yamecha, and the length of your days, Hashem is Ala Adama, to dwell upon the land, Hashem Nishma Hashem Lavisecha, again that Hashem has promised to your forefathers, Amin Mitzvah Yaakov, to give to them, to the forefathers. No Rashi on this. We go to the next parsha. Next parsha, it's called Vayeilich. And guess what? The first words of chapter 31, verse 1, Vayeilich. And he went. Who went? Moshe. By the way, in the previous verses, who is speaking? God? Moshe was speaking. Moshe is speaking, right? When he says, this day I call upon the heavens and the earth as witnesses, it's Moshe speaking. God is speaking through him, but it's Moshe's talking. Now, actually, it's speaking third person. Vayelech Moshe, Moshe went. He spoke all of these things to the children of Israel. Right, the following things. What did he speak? He said to him, Ben Shana, I am 120 years. Anechi I. Hayom today. Let's say, beloved, I'm not able to go out and to come. In other words, to be your shepherd, right? A shepherd takes out the flock, brings in the flock, takes care of the flock. Not able to do that. Hashem Amar Alai, and Hashem said to me, now so it's interesting how it started the verse, and he said to them, then it goes into first person. So Hashem Amar Alai, and Hashem said to me, Lo Yisavor, so Yarden said that you will not cross the Jordan. Rashi. Verse 2, Lo Yuchal Oilat says, Vayeilich, Asar Vayeilich, Moshe Lo Yuchal. Moshe went, Lo Yuchal Oilat says, Lavai can no longer go out and come in. Yachal Eshitashish Keicha. You might think it's because his strength waned. Listen, 120, he got a little old. Talmud Leimer, the Torah tells us otherwise. That his eye did not dim and the moisture did not leave him. In other words, he was not weak and old. So what does it mean? I can no longer. I'm not allowed. Because the authority was taken away from me, and it was given to Yeshua. Yeshua now is going to be the leader. So it was taken away from me, the authority. Right? Next Rashi, Vashem Amar Alai, and Hashem said to me, Zeo Pirush, this is the explanation, Lo Yuchal, let's say, so Lovei, I can no longer come in and go out and come in, Lefish Hashem Amar Alai, because Hashem said to me, I am today, right? Today my days and years have been filled. On this day I was born, and on this day I'm going to die. That's one explanation. In other words, it was Zayin Adar, the 7th of Adar, when he was born, and that's the day that he passes away. Another alternative explaining what it means that today I am 120. Right. Lot says to go in and go, wow, but with the words of Torah, Melamed, this teaches us Shinizim of Mimenu, Maseris and Mayanas HaChachma, that the knowledge handed down in the wellsprings of wisdom that had been closed to him. God closed, the wellspring of knowledge of Torah. Right. Why? Because it's going to be given over to Yeshua, and it's his day of passing. Okay. Verse number 3, Hashem Hashem your God, he will pass before you. Hu Yashmin is a goyim. He will destroy the nations, these nations, that are before you. V'yirashtem, and you shall take possession. Yeshua, hu lefanecha, and Joshua, Yeshua, he will pass before you, as Hashem has already spoken. Right? In Parshas Pinchas, if you remember, he was appointed as the successor of Moshe. Also Hashem lahem, and Hashem will do to them, kasher also l'sichain. In other words, to the nations, the Canaanite nations, Hashem will do to them as he did to Sichain, Uloig, and to Oig, the kings of the Amorites, right? And to their land, Asher Hishmir, that he destroyed them. Remember, he destroyed them and gave them to Ruvain, Menash, Gad, and half of Menashe, right? Onasnam, Hashem lefanecha, and Hashem delivered them before you. V'asisim lahem, and you shall do to them kashem hamitzvah asher tzivisi eschem, as the commandment that I have commanded you. Right. In other words, to the Canaanites, you shall do as I've commanded you to do. Right. The last verse. V'chisku, and you should be strong. Should be strong, vimtzu, and courageous. Al tiru, don't be afraid. Ve'al ta'artzu, don't be dismayed. Mipneihem, because of them. Ki Hashem Elokecha, Hashem your God, hu ha'ilech imach, because he is going with you. He's going with you. He will not have you fail, and he will not forsake you. Rashi lo yarbecha lo yiten lacha rifya and liya is nezav mimena. Wow. He's not going to give you a rifya. It means like a challenge, a weakness, right? That God's going to cause this weakness that he's forsaking you. So he says, let's take a look at the Rebbe. Okay. So the Rebbe says on verse, behold that I have given to you before you today life and good, death, and evil. Right? So on that verse, let's go back to it. The whole verse is from 15 to 19. So Rashi says, "Bacharta." You should choose life, right? Choose life. I am showing you that you should choose the portion of life, like a person who says to his son, who's getting an inheritance, choose the best of the estate, and he places him on the best, and he says to him, "This what you should choose." So Rebbe asks, why does Rashi need a metaphor in order to explain that you should choose life? What is the metaphor adding that the simple understanding doesn't provide? Furthermore, why is the father taking his son and placing him by the chosen part of the estate? Why isn't he leaving it for his son to choose on his own? I think, David, you asked something like that, right? Like it says, choose the best in my inheritance.
Shall.
Yeah, but why is the father placing him there? It's like you said, it's almost like forcing his hand,
Shall do it.
right? And in the metaphor, like it says, the father says to his son, choose the best portion in the estate. And then if it says again, this choose. Well, you just told him to choose the best, and now you're telling specifically what to choose, right? So the explanation is as follows. Just as the metaphor, likewise, the verse also has a redundancy. First, it says, behold, I have placed before you today life and good, death and evil. So it's understood that the right choice is to choose life. Why does the verse have to then repeat itself and says, um, life and death I have placed before you, and choose life. Look, right. The first verse 15, it says, Behold, I've set before you today life and good, death and evil, right?
Definitely, yes.
Verse 19, then it says, This day I call upon the heaven and earth and be a witness that I've set before you life and death, and the cursing and the blessing and the curse.
Now,
So we see, let's just follow what the Rebbe is saying, right? So it's repeating that. I mean, maybe it's a few verses later, but what's the emphasis in repeating? Okay, again, let's just follow instead of trying to.
different. Initially, you didn't say that.
And we know that the whole thing is between life and death, good and evil, right? So there's not a need, to repeat that I've said before you life and death, and a blessing and a curse. We understand that. That's the whole context here. Okay, David, let's just, instead of try to figure it out, just listen to the point and let the Rebbe guide us, okay? I'm doing this I didn't prepare this, so I'm doing this now. So I just need to be able to focus in on it, okay? Okay, so again, just like in the metaphor, it's repeated. So likewise over here in the verse, it is to what end? In order to explain this, Rashi brings the metaphor, right, and says, take the best of my estate, and then he kind of shows him exactly what that is in order that he should take the best of the estate, right? So he explains, there are situations that it's not enough that a father tells his son, choose the best of my inheritance. Because in some inheritance, it's sometimes difficult to distinguish by, a very superficial glaze of what is the best part of the inheritance. And in such an instance, the father has to point out himself what is the better portion. And that's why in the metaphor, Rashi says, Ma'amido al chelik yafa, that he places him on the better part, right? Doesn't just tell him, but he shows him, because sometimes it's not so obvious what is better in the estate. So similar in our instance over here. I've placed before you today life and good, death and evil. This is not sufficient on its own. Why? Because not all the time is it so obvious in a revealed way the virtue of the path of Torah. Therefore, On the contrary, sometimes you can look into the world and you can see uh, uh, that the better path and the better path is not the path Torah tells us to take, right? Therefore, the verse has to come back and tell us, life and death I have placed before you. Life and death I place before you. Choose life.
So,
Don't go after that which is superficially looks enticing, but have trust in Hashem and choose the path upon it which um, will bring true life, which is that of Torah mitzvahs. So, yeah, like the metaphor I gave of eating something that's enticing that looks in front of you, that it's wow, and it looks very pleasing and satisfying to the eye, to the smell, and all of that. And I'm just taking, a simple thing like, something that looks really sweet, and it is. It's got lots of sugar, and not even natural sugar. um, and so therefore, choose in those instances where not so obvious, so God gives us a greater sign that no, 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 no. Take this, don't take the other path. Hmm?
he also like sort of says, like, if you don't do this, your offspring won't live.
Didn't say he was going to die.
If this is Hashem's way of trying to avoid a second Gan Eden experience. Whereas before, with Adam and Eve, I mean, they had choices, but it wasn't explicit as to, you know, um, but it was explicit, but this time he's like going the extra mile to literally read that spell to them. It's been in Israel.
Literally, too.
Read and spell, and then I'm able to point them out. This is the way I really want you to go, nothing else but this. So that they would not be a repetition of what happened in Ghanaian.
Oh, yeah, you don't.
So there's no possibility of any outside forces influencing them, but he is taking full and total control of the scenario.
So,
In Gan Eden, it was very obvious. In the world that we live in today, it's not so obvious. That's the point. It's not like Gan Eden. Gan Eden, complete evil was in one place called a serpent. The mixture of good and evil was in one place called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Everything else was divine, was holy, was revealed godliness.
And yet they still fell in spite of that. More so,
Yeah.
coming out of Egypt, out of slavery.
Okay, but yes, that's true.
that's why you shine.
David, I think someone's at the front door. Can you check? Thank you.
It's boundaries to ensure that it's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
Going the extra mile and with you
Yeah.
and directly, this is the way to go. Just a thought.
As long as we're not miserable inside.
the stuff that's happening at the same time. Chumash goes with the war, unbelievable. The Chumash goes with the war. Go ahead.
So I have to choose life.
Huh?
We have to choose life.
Upcoming, I hope he canceled the thing, BB. Because his plan was that he's coming to the UN one day late, and he's going back on Shabbos.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's gonna miss Biden.
What?
It's gonna miss Biden. Biden's speech,
Miss Biden's speech?
the first day.
He did it already.
Biden did it already.
He did the speech.
yeah.
All right, folks.